Picture this: a remote mountainous region in Japan, mist rolling through ancient forests, the thunderous roar of a waterfall in the distance. And hidden among those trees, a secret so horrifying it'll make your blood run cold. I'm talking about ubasute, the alleged practice of abandoning the elderly near a waterfall to die. Yeah, you heard that right. Abandoning grandma and grandpa to meet their maker courtesy of Mother Nature herself. Shudders. Now before we go any further, I gotta warn ya, this tale ain't for the faint of heart. We're talking life, death, and the blurry ethical lines in between. So if you're squeamish, now's the time to hit that pause button. For the rest of you brave souls, let's dive in. Legend has it that back in feudal Japan, when times got tough and food was scarce, some villages had a gruesome solution to lighten the load. They'd take their oldest, frailest members, we're talking great-grandparents here, folks, and carry them up into the mountains. Can you imagine it? The steep, treacherous climb. The old-timer on someone's back. Maybe their own son or grandson. Did they know where they were headed? Did they suspect? The dread must have been palpable. Finally, they'd reach their destination, a remote spot near a thundering waterfall. And there, in the shadow of that relentless torrent, they'd leave the elderly person. Alone, exposed to the elements, with nothing but the roar of the water to keep them company as they slipped away into the great beyond. Now I know what you're thinking. No way, that's too cruel. People wouldn't actually do that, right? Well, hold on to your hats, 'cause this rabbit hole goes deep. See, the term ubasute literally translates to abandoning an old woman. But don't let the name fool you. This wasn't just a ladies-only affair. Gramps was fair game too. And get this, some accounts suggest it wasn't always near a waterfall. Sometimes it was just a remote mountaintop or forest clearing. Either way, the result was the same. Sayonara, senior citizens. But here's where it gets really wild. Some historians argue that ubasute might not have been an actual widespread practice at all. Gasp, I know, right? Plot twist. See, the earliest known reference to ubasute comes from a collection of stories called Yamato Monogatari from the 10th century. It tells the tale of an old woman who asks her son to abandon her on a mountain. But here's the kicker. He can't go through with it. He secretly brings her home and hides her. Fast forward a few centuries, and we get the story The Ballad of Narayama by Shichiro Fukuzawa in 1956. This puppy really put ubasute on the map. It's set in a poor village where anyone reaching 70 gets a one-way ticket to the mountaintop. The story follows an old woman preparing for her final journey. Heavy stuff, folks. This tale got adapted into not one but two critically acclaimed films. The 1958 version by Keisuke Kinoshita? Absolutely haunting. But it's the 1983 remake by Shohei Imamura that really cranks up the horror. It won the Palme d'Or at Cannes. And let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. We're talking graphic depictions of the harsh realities of rural life, including, you guessed it, dear old Granny being hauled up that mountain. Now, these stories packed a punch. They got people talking, thinking, debating. But here's the million-yen question. Were they based on real events, or just really effective moral fables? Well, buckle up, Buttercup, 'cause we're about to go full-on history detective mode. See, life in feudal Japan could be brutal, especially for the common folk. Famines were a real threat, and when food got scarce, tough choices had to be made. Some historians argue that in extreme cases, villages might have resorted to population control methods to ensure survival. But here's the thing. There's no solid archaeological evidence of mass elderly abandonment sites. No piles of granny bones at the base of waterfalls. Nada. Zip. Zilch. So what gives? Well, some scholars suggest that ubasute might have been more of a metaphorical concept than a literal practice. A way to explore the harsh realities of aging in a society where resources were limited and every mouth to feed was a potential burden. But hold up. 'Cause this is where it gets really interesting. Even if ubasute wasn't a widespread practice, the idea of it has left a lasting mark on Japanese culture. Take Mount Ubasute in Nagano Prefecture. Its very name means abandoning Grandma Mountain. Local legends say it was a dumping ground for the elderly. Today, it's a tourist attraction. Can you believe it? People hike up there to soak in the views and ponder the dark history. Talk about a morbid day trip. And it's not just mountains. There are ubasute or grandmother abandonment slopes scattered across Japan. These steep paths are said to be where families would make that final, heartbreaking journey. Now, before you start thinking this is all ancient history, let me hit you with a modern twist that'll make your head spin. In 2015, Japan's finance minister Taro Aso made headlines when he suggested that elderly people should hurry up and die to relieve pressure on the state to pay for their medical care. Yeah, you heard that right. A government official in the 21st century essentially advocating for a modern form of ubasute. The backlash was swift and fierce, but it highlighted a very real issue. Japan's rapidly aging population and the strain it's putting on social services. See, Japan's got one of the highest life expectancies in the world. Great news, right? Well, not so fast. It's also got a super low birth rate. Result? A top-heavy population pyramid that's got economists sweating bullets. By 2036, it's estimated that 1 in 3 Japanese people will be elderly. That's a lot of grandmas and grandpas needing care, and not enough young whippersnappers to foot the bill. It's a ticking demographic time bomb, folks. So while nobody's suggesting we start chucking Granny off a cliff, the specter of ubasute still looms large in the Japanese psyche. It's become a shorthand for the fear of abandonment in old age, of becoming a burden on society. And let's be real, this ain't just a Japanese issue. As populations age worldwide, we're all grappling with these questions. How do we care for our elders? What do we owe them? Where's the line between compassion and practicality? Heavy stuff, right? But wait, there's more. 'Cause this ubasute business? It's not just fodder for historical debates and policy discussions. Oh no, it's seeped into pop culture like soy sauce on rice. Remember that 1983 film, The Ballad of Narayama, I mentioned earlier? It inspired a whole genre of ubasute films. We're talking heart-wrenching dramas, psychological thrillers, even some seriously twisted horror flicks. Take Dendera from 2011. It's based on a novel by Yuya Sato, and it flips the ubasute script on its head. Picture this, a village of abandoned grannies, banding together to survive in the wilderness. They've built their own society, complete with laws, traditions, and a burning desire for revenge against the village that cast them out. It's like Golden Girls meets Mad Max, and it is wild. Or how about the anime series Elfenlied? It uses the ubasute legend as a metaphor for how society treats those who are different. Dark, disturbing, and definitely not your typical cartoon fare. But it's not all doom and gloom in ubasute-inspired media. The Studio Ghibli film, The Tale of the Princess Kaguya, gives the legend a gentler spin. In this version, an old bamboo cutter finds a tiny girl inside a glowing stalk of bamboo. He raises her as his own, but ultimately has to let her go back to her home on the moon. It's a bittersweet take on the theme of parental sacrifice and letting go. Now I know what you're thinking. Geez Louise, this is some heavy stuff for a podcast. And you're not wrong. But here's the thing. Legends like ubasute, as grim as they are, serve a purpose. They're a window into our deepest fears, our moral dilemmas, our struggles with mortality. Think about it. We all get old, if we're lucky. We all face the prospect of becoming dependent on others. And in a world of limited resources, we all grapple with the question of how to allocate care and support. The ubasute legend takes these universal anxieties and cranks them up to 11. It forces us to confront the unthinkable. What if our loved ones, our society, decided we were no longer worth keeping around? But it also challenges us to think about the flip side. What do we owe our elders? How far should we go to care for them? At what point does self-sacrifice become self-destruction? These aren't easy questions, folks, but they're questions we need to grapple with, especially as our global population gets grayer by the day. And let's not forget, while ubasute might be a Japanese legend, Every culture has its own version of this moral quandary. In some Native American tribes, there are stories of elderly people choosing to be left behind when food was scarce. In ancient Sparta, there are accounts of geronticide, the systematic killing of the elderly. Heck, even in modern times, we see echoes of this dilemma. Remember the controversy over death panels during the Obamacare debates? Or the heart-wrenching decisions families had to make about elderly care during the COVID-19 pandemic? It all comes back to that fundamental tension between individual worth and collective survival, between honoring our elders and securing a future for the young, between compassion and pragmatism. So next time you're having a rough day dealing with your cranky grandpa or your forgetful aunt, just remember, at least you're not hauling them up a mountain to meet their watery doom. Nervous laughter. But in all seriousness, folks, the legend of Ubasute serves as a powerful reminder. A reminder to cherish our elders, to value their wisdom and experience. A reminder that every life has worth, no matter how frail or dependent. And who knows? Maybe by confronting these dark legends, by staring our fears in the face, we can find a way forward. A way to build a society that truly cares for all its members, from the youngest babe to the oldest great-grandparent. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together. We're all climbing that mountain of life, and sooner or later, we'll all need someone to help us along the way. So the next time you hear that thundering waterfall, spare a thought for those who came before us, for the struggles they faced, the choices they made. And maybe, just maybe, we can learn from their stories and build a better, more compassionate world for all. And with that, my friends, I'll leave you to ponder these chilling tales and thorny moral quandaries. Until next time, keep your elders close, your hiking boots ready, and your ethical compasses pointing true north. This is your host, signing off. Stay spooky, stay thoughtful, and above all, stay human.